Hello Patreons, Lily's going to ask me some questions about my writing practice, aren't you, Lils?
I am indeed. So, number one, your writing formula. Do you write and find the narrative, or do you have a clear image, idea or character before you even start?
I do the first one.
Yeah.
So I sort of stream of consciousness write, but I sort of know what I want to talk about. That's when I'm just starting to write and I need to like splurge everything. So it's like, okay, I'm going to write about that time when Frank got really sick and lots of people, and lots of trauma happened and lots of people gravitated and lots of people left. And I'm writing all the stories from that time, so it's sort of like pulling out threads of things whilst I remember them. So I wrote a massive list of all the things that sort of happened that I can remember, feelings and occasions and tiny images. And then I sort of just look at the list and then just write bits about it in like a stream of consciousness. That's first. And then I'll start to look at it properly and be like, okay, that's nice. What is the common metaphor with all of these things? Maybe I should only use one or two. Because if I'm a sandcastle in one, I can't really be in space in another unless I want the metaphors to all be mixed up. And start to look at language and what keeps repeating and finding repeats. And then later, once I've sort of written it, picked all the bits that I like, then I start to add structure, character. So then I might know, okay, I haven't got a piece of writing yet that has to break your heart. But this is really good to go before it, and this is really good to go after it. So this next piece has to be so deep and dark. You know, I kind of can feel my way through like that, and then I'll sit and write that bit. So it's sort of, the characters never really happen because it's just me.
Yeah, I was going to say, does it always come from completely your own experience, or do you take from other people's experiences and you want to write about their experience?
Mostly my own.
Yeah.
And then if I'm collaborating with a non-performer, I'll interview them and then I'll write theirs for them, and then they'll help to shape that once it's written. And
like
rewrite
Taylor
it, like Taylor or Tim.
Yeah.
And then with the Cancer musical, it was very much interviewing people and then writing stuff in response to what they said. So it was trying to make a character that was them. That I find that a lot harder. But yeah, what's on the Patreon already is just like a stream of consciousness writing. So like you've got something about my granddad, then you've got something that's like that thing out of Finding Nemo where she just goes, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. And I know that that's in my head because at the time I kept watching Finding Nemo because it was the one thing that I wanted to escape. So, you know, and so that soundbite comes in just as I'm writing.
So it almost like becomes the music behind your writing. Sometimes you're like the
just atmospheric
and,
stuff. So like, it could be. I remember making a cake when I was like in the worst. I never make cakes, and I was in like absolute agony, heart ache, and I just made a cake. I was like, I need to make a cake. I need to do something. So I made a Guinness cake.
Was it nice?
It was lovely. But like, the ingredient, like it was like reading the ingredients, getting the ingredients, they were the things that were keeping me together. So maybe that recipe sometimes would come into the writing. It's just sort of trying not to talk about, I'm dying, I'm in pain, because actually that's not interesting.
And that's not how people get through it
No,
either.
exactly. The way I describe making this cake is a type of mania. And you know that I'm manic because I forget bits of it and it keeps fucking up and I keep having to remake the cake. I'm not having even written this, but do you know what I mean? Like then you get the mania. You don't have to be like, I feel mad.
Yeah.
I'm a mad lady.
We just know that anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you, where do you write best? Like where in the world?
It doesn't matter. I'm portable. I don't have a feeling of like, oh, it has to be a quiet room. I put my headphones in if I'm with people that I don't want to talk to, if I'm in a cafe. If I'm here, it's quiet, I'll just sit. I do it in about an hour and a half blast, and then I'll need a quick, well, it used to be a fag. Now it's probably like just a little wander about and a drink of water and maybe a strawberry. No, I used to really like pepper my day with coffee and cigarettes, and that sort of stopped. But yeah, I like to write for long periods of time. I like to go and do a day's writing. I don't find it very easy to go into the headspace for an hour and then go like, okay, that's it, I can't write for an hour. I have to go and do my work.
So the next question I was going to ask you is, when do you write best? But is it more about just having
just structure.
the amount of time to write in?
So like I've been writing this show in my head probably since all this stuff started happening without really knowing. You know, 'cause someone said to me when Frank was really ill and everything was going wrong, they were like, "Oh, I bet you make a show about this," and I was like so offended. Why would I make a show about this? This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And then about a year later, I'm like, oh yeah, I do need to make a show about this. But at the time, I wasn't writing. I was writing stuff manically in my phone, but it wasn't like, oh, the day is so grey. It was like, must remember to take him to the hospital appointment, must make sure I don't fall apart, must make, like,
notes to self really, as opposed to trying to write for a purpose.
But then, since knowing I was going to write it, it's been being written in my head. Do you know what I mean? I'm living in it, and I think to myself, yeah, I must write something about that cake, must write something about measuring out drugs for children, must write something about that nurse that was so lovely to us, must write something about when I drove and I didn't know I was even driving, and then I got home and I was like, how did I get home? So I think I kind of writing it, and then I write best just like a little wind-up dog, like, okay, here, Bryony, have some time. So I've got 4 weeks. It's like, go, and then and I'm like, that's what I'm making. This 4 weeks, I'm in that, and I dream about it. I try not to think about it when I'm with Frank, but it's there. So I write.
It's a time
in
pressure
a fury.
for you. Yeah,
and time, and giving a time pressure, and there's a sharing.
Yeah.
So I always have to do a sharing when I'm writing or I'm making, because it's the pressure. All of my workshops that I teach are like. Got something in my eye, Lil.
Oh no, I can see that.
I'm carrying on because I'm a trooper.
Cheers, keep calm and carry on, Brady.
They're basically about tricking yourself into not feeling crap about your work, and also being motivated.
It's about not judging the work, because it stops the process.
Yeah, I'm just
going,
writing this week. I don't care if you think my cake's a good idea or not. At the moment, it doesn't matter. What's the last question?
So I was just gonna kind of like, well, I won't stop you any longer, because basically you summed it up what I was going to ask you next, which is talk through your ideal day of writing, which I think we've just kind of gone in and out of just then, but unless you want to give it to me.
I like to have water, I like to have nice treats, I like to break it up into manageable sections, I like to have a good old list of things that I want to write about. So if I'm sort of, sometimes I can just sit and write all day long and think, oh, what was that? And then go back through it the next day. But like sometimes I'm a bit like, oh, what should I write about now? And so I pick stuff from the list, or I pick stuff from so on my desk in my old studio, I had like a pot of writing tasks. So I just pull one out, and it would be like a piece of text screen from a window, and you just go like, okay, that's inspired me to write something. And often I'll spend a good day sitting with Tom, my dramaturg, which is what I did yesterday. He's my music maker with me and also my dramaturg. So we sat and talked through loads of stuff. And once we've done that and we've got loads of references and loads of things, the next day is always the best day.
Cool. And just for everyone else's sake that may not know, what is a dramaturg?
That's a good question, because it's different for everybody at the moment.
Yeah.
And there's sort of trying to it's big on the continent, so people are trying to organise what they think it is. For me, it's someone that is a co-conspirator who understands me intrinsically and kind of knows what I'm good at and bad at, understands from the project what I'm trying to communicate with the audience, and kind of sits in between yourself as an artist and the audience to keep asking the question that the audience will probably ask, like, what do you mean by that? Well, that's a red herring because you just said that and this seems to be taking us off on a tangent. So they kind of take care of the story.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the director takes care of sort of the big picture. The dramaturg takes care of keeping the focus of the story, for me anyway. But he's also someone that I can be like, oh my God, did you see that episode of EastEnders? Like, how do we filter that in? It's sort of like someone that is the other part of your brain as well.
Yeah. Do you feel like you need to kind of have two brains when you're working on a piece? Because
I doubt myself a lot.
Yeah.
And quite a lot of this writing is sort of like, you're an idiot, Kimmings, you're fucking useless. That's what my brain tells me all the time. I know that's what everyone's brain tells them all the time. So the good thing about Tom is always like, that's really interesting, that's really exciting. What if you said this about it? What do you feel about this about it? So it's just someone to be there to kind of go, no, you're on the right track, keep going as well. It's sort of emotional support as well. And I'm lucky because he's so nice to me. He sort of goes, you are a genius, you know. And I'm like, I know I'm not, but like it's nice to like, you know, we get really excited about stuff.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, we got really excited about like a company called the PC. I think they're called the PC Collective or something. Like really weird digital music. We were both like, this is amazing. And
so like, someone you can like geek out with, stuff.
Yeah. And also like just go like, oh, it's a little bit like this artist, and then, you know, we'll look at the artist and get really geeky about it because both of us really love art.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, look, Rosie Dennis, let's watch Rosie Dennis. Or like, oh, fuck, this reminds me a bit of, I don't know, Midlake, terrible folk band from like the late 90s. And it's like, yeah, but it is like this in this way. So we kind of like, Tom and I speak exactly the same language. That's very rare though, I think.
It keeps up the energy.
I'm lucky to have
Oh, wow, we thank Tom and Bryony #1 for doing this interview.
Patreon.
Goodbye.